This is AV SuperFriends Perspectives, a collection of interviews, discussions, and presentations from conferences, trade shows, and events that just don't fit either of the other two shows. Some are long, some are short, but they'll all have valuable insights, useful information, or just good conversation with thought leaders and subject matter experts. And now, the AV SuperFriends.
Okay, so today we are joined by David Maxa, Mike Brandis, Jonathan Moore from Q-SYS. We're here to answer all our Q-SYS questions, right? No? Something? I just want to point out, we're getting closer to the cloud. We're up like 12 feet.
Yeah.
I want to point out, we are on the coveted second floor of the booth. I've noticed that some companies have the booth with the two floors, and like that's the roped off area. That's the exclusive VIP section.
Yeah, for those of you listening, it's just velvet carpet and couches up here.
Yes.
Pretty exciting.
Well, technically there's carpet and there's a couch over there. So.
Yeah. And they didn't know I was lying. Thank you.
It's a little velvet.
Nice.
But we reached out a couple of months ago and said, hey, we're going to be at InfoComm. We want to, well, obviously, but we want to talk with you guys specifically. We want to get into some deep dive stuff on Q-SYS. We could be high level on a few things, but I sent you a list of potential topics. We're kind of all over the place. Have you seen that list?
Yeah,
okay.
I shared it.
Right. I wasn't sure. So we're kind of all over. So I guess we'll start with the easy question because, thanks again for having us here. But what's new? What's cool? What are you guys like really announcing, pushing this week? What do you want to talk about when people come in and like, what the heck's going on in here today? By the way, your booth is just jam-packed with people.
Yes.
I have seen multiple people just today walk by and go, oh, we can't get in there today.
I think there's a fire code issue here.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, we can't talk about fire codes?
No.
Okay.
No.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off, and then Mike can kind of talk about what's maybe a little bit new. But, of course, right, like last year, we're having the tour side of things, or as we call it, the experience, right?
The haunted house?
No, it's not haunted.
With the tiny
bedroom? And there's no bedroom for Justin this year.
Where's Tiny Bed?
Tiny Bed.
No. There may or may not be a dance party. I don't know. I think a little bit better than the bed. No bed, but so anyhow. Mike's already quivering over here.
The idea of a dance party and Tiny Bed together is going to haunt my nightmares.
Yeah.
Did you guys? I just got to know. Did you guys keep Tiny Bed? Is it around somewhere?
We wanted to keep Tiny Bed. We wanted to make an in memoriam segment for Tiny Bed.
Oh, like a little graveyard.
We specifically wanted to mount it from the rafters like a retired jersey in a sports stadium.
It was trending last year.
You had a lot of comments.
What everyone was talking about.
Probably not what we wanted to really trend with, but
look, as a leading technology and Tiny Bed provider, I think it's important to lean into what you do well.
It's the world's top software, hardware, and Tiny Bed manufacturer.
Yeah.
So, yes.
But no, I mean, right. Again, we're talking about the experience side of going through it, right? And there's 4 separate rooms and what all you can accomplish within the platform, and then of course the ecosystem side of things, right? So we're engaging in that model, and then some of what is new and what we're doing. Since this is a higher ed podcast, we'll probably really focus on that room. We're incorporating Seer Vision, which last year was announced the morning of, I think, pretty much. And then also ACPR is part of that. So that's kind of, we're highlighting that in the room. But additionally, as you see, it's a little more open, even though crowded, no fire hazard. Different products. We're talking, we have our stations from presentation, conference room, what we can do with, the NV side of things, streaming, right? It's an encoder, it's a processor, it's a DSP all-in-one, kind of showing those attributes. Focusing a little more with a dedicated station this year on the reservoir here for Seer Vision, showing that off. And then, of course, we got our standalone products. And one of the big announcements on top of that is Reflect, right? We don't say Reflect Enterprise. We call it Q-SYS Reflect. And a lot of what we're offering from the free tier side, right? So part of the free side of things, like before, it was like, there's not too much there, and what we're doing now is asset management. You can, pretty much everything other than really kind of seeing your panels, and then we restructured the pricing side of that side of things. But a lot coming on, really trying to get people to experience the platform and what we can do and what we're going to be able to do from the cloud side of things.
Yeah, I think you focused on it really well. I think one of the key things that's a little different, everyone used to bring their products to InfoComm to showcase. So like, here's our new box, here's our new widget. And I've done that 4 or 5 times here at this organization. But a lot of what we're focusing on today is incremental value changes. So Q-SYS Reflect transitioning to a more useful free tier to drive adoption and simplicity for all of our users with the select key features in the paid tier. With a simplified pricing model, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be hostile to do business with us. It shouldn't hurt to do business with us. And I think just kind of getting that right for our customers is really important. But we are transitioning to a software company and doing everything we can to get there. And one of those things means you just are constantly updating your hardware products, right? Your laptop can always get a new app on it. Your phone can always get a new app on it. We can always add to the Q-SYS platform. So not everything's a new box, which is really exciting for us come trade show season of the will it be ready, won't it be ready. It's software that we can demo, we can do proof of concepts with. So we have a lot of fun features. One that's interesting and probably undernoticed is there's an example of a JavaScript web app running on a Q-SYS core serving up room booking from AppSpace. So that's an integration that's on the booth that is no net new products, no net new hardware. It's just all software application development.
And so that's a partnership with another manufacturer, with a software vendor, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those where it's like, hey, when you say we're interested in adding room scheduling to our platform, everyone automatically thinks, great, you're going to have new panels, you're going to have this Q-SYS tool where I go and I tie in my Dean Evans or whatever I'm using to schedule my classrooms, and it's not. You're already using something that has everything from classroom
Post-it
management.
notes on the door is what we use.
Yeah, Post-it notes. I like to print out memes. Like, don't bother, the cat meme with the two ladies yelling over salad. I mean, there's just a lot of options there. Well, I think that's a great example.
To your point about scheduling, I asked Jonathan that question about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I'm like, how do I leverage one of your TSCs as a scheduling panel? And he basically his response was like, look, moron, there's already a, and I have this quoted, but it was like, there's already kind of like a beta version. You can do that. It's just a change in the GUI, so figure it out, dummy.
Get it right or pay the price. We are providing system integrators and in-house integrators, a development platform. That's really what we're doing. A development platform with a mixture of hardware involved to deliver that same experience that I want to control my projector. I want to open and close the air wall in my ballroom. Now I want it to be
I want to do that.
A room scheduler. I need to convert from a volleyball game to a basketball game in the arena. And change
any future products or solutions towards hot desking?
Hot desking. Well, that's a great example of our values probably in aggregating everything. But a user's going to open up an app that their company gives them. That's not going to be Q-SYS to reserve a desk. We don't know that there's any value in us building a desk sensor. So for us, it's the power of the partnership to kind of combine all that data together, ship it off wherever you want it through Q-SYS Reflect. Your AV people will love Q-SYS Reflect. Your IT management, facilities management, physical plant management probably would never open up Q-SYS Reflect, but if we could flow that data directly into their version of whatever it is they're using to make sure the sprinklers turn on at the right time and the moisture levels are fine and the forest fire is not going to reach your campus, right? That's the value for them, is the data, not the interface.
That was a great response, by the way, to me throwing in a stupid question like that. So I appreciate that.
And it led to forest
right
fires.
off the bat.
Yeah. We got well practiced.
I am a super friend of the AV Super Friends.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. No, I bring up the hot desking because that came out. Was it Extron, Crestron? Somebody, and they went big on and you can now schedule a desk. I'm like,
why?
6 people just got excited about that. So. I mean, I get it. From an ecosystem standpoint, it's relatively easy to room scheduling, desk scheduling, the same sort of thing. So, but
are you treating education as a corporation?
No, because I don't reserve desks or rooms. So
the question was, are you treating education as a corporation?
Good point.
Yeah,
right. Nobody can hear Jonathan
because he doesn't have a mic.
That's why we were making fun of him earlier. Yeah.
So I just sent an email to the registrar and asked her to schedule the room for me. Actually.
So that's the funny thing about scheduling on campuses, and everybody does it differently, but there's always the central scheduling space, the system that does it, and it's usually registrar or maybe there's a scheduling office or somebody. But then every college does their own thing, every department does their own thing, and then once the classes are scheduled, then it's a freaking free-for-all of people using random Post-it notes, things on whiteboards. There may be bootleg resource calendars created in Outlook, none of which talk to each other or anything, and then the irony is you walk down the hallway and there's all these green occupancy sensors that are all bright green, and there's people in every one of the rooms.
I think that's the smart building future we were hoping for.
Oh, yes, look how smart. They're green all the way down.
And often it's not defined by the room because the class schedule and the event schedule run on different software.
Of course they do.
And so that same room can be booked or not booked on 2 different platforms, and they have no idea.
It's a well-oiled machine for universities. So.
Yeah, I have seen it in a couple of universities where they do tie it in, but you have to have that communication path open.
Yeah.
It's something, it's possible.
It's possible, but usually there are 2 different groups that don't like each other.
And that's the point. Like, you're not going to technology yourself out of a process and people problem. And I think there's a lot of attempts to do that don't land well, and people get burned because they do it the wrong way. So they're like, oh, we're never going to approach room scheduling again. Why would we do that? We tried that in the 90s. It was terrible. We faxed everybody the Excel printout on the dot matrix paper, and so we won't try it again.
And someone dutifully went down the hall and taped it to the front of the door every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they use those like plastic things you buy at Staples where you screw it into the wall and then kind of open it up and slide in your sheet of paper.
Yeah.
We still have those everywhere.
Yeah, my office is marked with one of those.
If it ain't broke, don't fix
Do you
it.
still have a schedule from the 90s?
What we do, no, so we use Astra. I guess you've probably used, so they print out the Astra sheet and then slide it in the.
Nice.
For those of you looking at home, I just died inside. It was reflected in my eyes.
That we print a lot. We have a lot of printers on campus.
That's great. That's tremendous for the environment.
I was going to say, kind of tying in, Chris's favorite word, compute.
I was at the meeting where the guy from Intel invented that, and I wish I would have stood up and yelled at him. But
No, don't. Stop it. It's okay. We can create words. So
that word already existed, but in a different way or using it incorrectly.
Yeah.
So part of that's something else we're showcasing down there. We have the team side.
I'm going to get a marker, Mike. I'm going downstairs. Everyone gets an R all the way around your booth.
I'm taking R's away across this whole thing.
But part of it is
Just no R's.
But part of what you can do with it, like I have a couple different campuses that are tied to, like they are teams, and he actually uses it and they schedule it and they're leveraging the power of the platform to automatically unlock doors, then lock the doors because they don't have the people on site. So
that sounds terrible.
It's actually pretty unique. We did an ad hoc one, so kind of talking what you're talking about. Like they actually did an ad hoc meeting and it worked. They just didn't have the personnel to open it, and there were some security concerns. And of course, we're showcasing the new Zoom app as part of it. And I know it's not, everyone to each their own on what they're doing, but that is something we are showcasing.
You did say Teams, and that's on our list.
Okay.
Just so everyone listening, we did come up with a kind of a list of potential topics to scare the crap out of Mike and David, but appreciate them for still showing up today. But no, so on Teams, and this one I think was this Jamie or Mark? It was one of the two.
Jamie.
It was Jamie.
Go figure.
So Jamie wants to know specifically to Teams, because we're all dealing with more Teams and Teams room systems coming into campus.
There's no we in this shit.
Yeah, he doesn't do this.
I don't do that.
Almost all of us are dealing with Teams and Teams rooms. Justin will be soon.
Yes.
Nope.
You went all in on Zoom rooms. But,
Zoom rooms.
All right.
We got 20 and we're done.
Yeah.
And we stopped.
But there's been a big push on that, and I'm curious from the manufacturer side, does that play into product development? Does that play into choices you're making because you want to make sure it's compliant with your partners at Microsoft, who I will be the first to say in the most diplomatic way possible, and please, take it for what you will, they are not AV people. And they will make noises about being AV people and then not return phone calls or emails. So we're AV people in the sense where we want to say we are, but we're going to kind of, and I'll use this word, foist a solution on everybody else, regardless of accepted industry best practices and standards. So I'm curious, from a manufacturer standpoint, do you also find yourself kind of like having to course correct based on some of the things you're getting from Microsoft or from Zoom or from partners like that?
I think it's a different strokes for different folks type thing. So there are people that live and die by certified solutions. There are people that have said things like, well, I've been doing this before Microsoft was in this game, and I'm just going to do it however I want. And it works, right? It's a computer. For a lot of our customers...
It's a compute.
I said computer.
Computer.
I'll say compute for him.
I thought maybe you were slipping. You're like, oh, crap, one select through.
Never slipping. That being said, some people find a lot of value in it, some people don't. So from our standpoint, there's a lot of trends out there. There's a lot of things that happen in the UC space that are very fast-paced, reactive, spec-driven things that we don't have any desire to participate in. Microsoft released center camera table spec. You now all of a sudden see a lot of center table cameras all over the place. We don't have one of those, right? So it's an opportunity.
But next year,
It's an opportunity for manufacturers to go out and contribute to what Microsoft wants to do.
Sure.
So we value the importance of certification. It helps us basically say, hey, Microsoft's telling you and they're showing you in all these slick, beautiful videos, this is what your signature room is going to be for the few people that want to buy it. Great. We can deliver that experience, and Microsoft trusts us to deliver that experience. One of the things that is important to note about certification is certification has an objective element to it. Like you submit your camera and it goes through hundreds of visual tests with empirical data that says your, color values are wrong here, or you can't achieve this in a red light room, right? Like, so there's actual data, and then there's subjective test afterwards. So they not only run it through tests and say, okay, well, it's capable, but then they use it for a few weeks in their facilities to understand what's the experience going to be like.
Microsoft does that themselves?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's called dog fooding. It's the last portion
Eating their own
of
dog food, sure.
It's the last formal portion of the certification process.
Their Teams team doesn't even use Teams, though, so I don't know, just pointing that out.
They just started, he said. They just started.
So they, it's one of those where they want to make sure that they're delivering to the market through their partners, us included, what they tell the market they're actually delivering. They don't want to sell the ocean and deliver, a cup of water. So I think the certification helps in that, and it prevents some of these weird things that you may buy on Temu or Wish.com or Alibaba that may explode.
That's where I get all my stuff.
I mean, there's a time and a place for it. Obviously, for me, it's clothing, but for folks out there, it may not.
I've been buying a bunch of bootleg audio gear. Q-SYS, you may have heard of them.
So there is some value in it for
Sure.
us. And as far as does it change our product development philosophy? Minimally.
Okay.
We want to solve problems. Microsoft Teams wants to sell you a Microsoft Teams room in a classroom, in a small meeting room, in a large meeting room, in an auditorium, and they still need someone to deliver the actual technology that makes the Teams room license usable.
Right.
That's where we add our value. It's not necessarily bespoke product integration.
Well, I guess it's good to hear that from your perspective, you don't have to change product development to align with some sort of weird concept or spec coming from Redmond. So
yeah,
I appreciate that, because there's some weird stuff up there. And I say that as a former resident of King County, Seattle, and the state of Washington. So, yeah. What? I lived there. A bunch of weirdos
You
up
lived
there.
everywhere.
I've lived everywhere.
Yeah, he really is.
That Johnny Cash song was about me. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's my team's question. What do you guys got? I'll shut up.
Yeah, that's the most I've ever heard you on your own podcast.
I know.
Or not your own, but when you initiate.
Well, I got more topics. You want me to bring them up, but
come on, I need like the rapid fire quiz round. It's
Rapid fire quiz round.
Yeah, it's like the 2-point round in Wait, Don't Tell Me. That is, wow, okay.
no, I'm very
Wow,
familiar.
just everyone just looked at me like I was 80. That's great.
What was the name of the original host? Clive somebody or other.
I don't know, I'm not that old. Old enough to listen to NPR on Saturday mornings, but not that old.
All right, so question on the, this is more of just any thoughts on, or any development, any changes, whatever, in the partner plug-in process, because that's one of the things that, as I design more and more systems, I look specifically for partners who come straight out front and say, here's the plugins for Q-SYS, because I'll just say this from my perspective, there's still the Crestrons and Extrons, and AMX is here, so kudos to them for showing up this year.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, they're here.
They're here. They've got a booth,
we got
Larry.
him excited.
Larry's
He's really
Larry's an old
excited
AMX
now.
guy.
Hey,
So.
I am AMX certified from back in the day.
From
1985.
But it's still like kind of reminding people that there's all their ecosystems out there. And if I'm looking at two cameras, two microphones, whatever, and one says, here's our Q-SYS plugin, and one, they may have it, but it's not there and I can't find it in Designer, etc. I'll go with that one, because at the end of the day, that saves my team a lot of time. So just curious if there's any thought on being a little more easy to find, that publicly facing whatever, hey, go look up cameras, that sort of, whatever it is. I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. So
Yeah, that's exactly.
So I know
right.
you have that program. So
Yeah, so we have currently a technology partner program that's kind of transitioning to be more of a technology publishing program. So it allows us to go out and find manufacturers that we want to have certified integrations with. So kind of certified partner was what we were using before, and that kind of created a broad brush sentiment. We might have a certified integration with one of a company's 1,000 products, and they would say, oh, well, our products, we're a certified partner. So it doesn't really provide clarity to you as a user about whether or not you're getting what you hope to be getting. going back to our conversation about Microsoft and certifications and all those things, there is value there. So as a certified publishing program, we're able to take plugins, add them to our asset library, so you can access them, you can search for them, you can search for camera, you can search for shade controller, projector mount, and it simplifies the integration. There's always going to be things that are just so gosh darn easy that it would take you more clicks to put a plugin in than to copy the 3 hexadecimal codes into some command buttons. But for us, it's about finding partners that add value to our existing
Correct,
plugins.
yeah.
So.
What plugins do you have for projector mounts?
Yeah, I'm curious about the projector mount.
Projector mount plugins are very interesting.
They are the most interesting thing ever. Like, can I get a code for up and down?
Yeah.
But can I get 16
projector
buttons?
So you're talking about lifts. Oh my God. Oh,
There's a new one today.
That is a motorized mount, fella.
That is a lift serve one purpose, and that is to create a future support ticket.
Yeah. So speaking of the plugins, real quick. So whenever I buy a product where you have a plugin wrote, and then that manufacturer updates their product, new model, not much difference, but then I use that version 1 plugin, and it works mostly, but then there's like this one error. What's the process of updating and verification, and what does that look like? Because that's really hard for y'all to keep up with.
Well, the best part is, with this technology publishing program, we don't do that.
Okay.
Manufacturers go out and they contract certified developer partners to write plugins for their
Which we
products.
know some of those people, yeah.
And then we put them in our asset library. So it kind of makes sure that if I'm brand Y and I've got an airport paging system and I want to plug it into Q-SYS, well, every time I update my airport paging system, I need to update my plugin to make sure they're in sync.
So what happens if the plugin's not available for update? Does that something we reach out to you all, or we have to reach out to the other manufacturer?
That's a great question. Each one's kind of different, but it's in when you download a plugin, just like when you download an app on your phone.
Right.
There's a support number. There's a set of release notes and everything like that. We are able to, at times, if we need to, take things out of our asset library if there are known to be issue creators. So we have that element of control over the system.
Okay.
But we're not supporting every plugin because that's just an untenable amount of work.
Well, I was going to say, like, how many support calls can you handle?
So yeah, I mean, I like to make the comparison. The side I like about it, because I mean, we've probably seen it before. Not a plugin, other.
Like, we're not calling Apple when our app doesn't work right?
Is that ideally right? I used to actually.
Yeah.
But is as part of that process, if something does change, that the communication path is going on and that update happens. Because I think I know you all personally had that where like, oh, this said not called a plugin thing got updated, but the manufacturer updated firmware and then it doesn't tie in, right? And then so now your old non-plugin name breaks. So.
You're making hand signals? Use your words, man. What was that?
I'm just saying we're at 24 minutes. I got a note saying that we have to leave soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you got to get a microphone.
Otherwise we don't talk.
Jonathan Moore on the mic.
Here I am, everyone. So to add to that process a little bit, and I think just to cover that, anytime that an app does, an application, a plugin does get updated, it goes through a verification process to make sure that no one has added some nefarious means, some sort of vector for security, malicious security purposes in that plugin layer. So that's the whole idea, right?
Who's responsible? Is that on the manufacturer side, your side?
Right. So the manufacturer is responsible for making sure that plugin works with their product. But then it does have to go through us to make sure, much like Apple does, to make sure that an app doesn't allow you to
take
just
all
give,
your content
give
to China?
everything on your phone.
Brick the rest of the system.
Exactly.
I send my stuff to China already, so we're good.
So we're not gonna. Same thing. We're not gonna allow a plugin to just destroy a core. We're not going to allow a plugin to create a massive security hole in your AV network.
So it would not destroy my network.
I mean,
never, ever.
Never, ever. It would never happen.
That's an ironclad guarantee.
That's a tough guarantee, Jonathan. Damn.
Certified.
Wow.
It's on the box. Put
now
it on
a whole
the
bunch
box.
of hackers have.
They're listening. Challenge accepted.
No challenge here.
Booth is shutting down in 5 minutes.
But yeah, I think that's a big thing because, again, that communication path doesn't always happen when the manufacturer updates it.
Yes,
exactly. Because I've been running into that, and it's not worth me calling in for.
Yeah.
because it's little stupid problems. Like, oh, well, this is the wrong model number. But it works, so who cares, right? But it's
my
just
team
curious.
Flagged one a few months ago. It was about a year ago, I think. It was on line of Panasonic displays, and it wouldn't take zeros in like an IP address. It was some weird thing like that.
Stuff like that.
And we flagged that, went through support, whatever, and then when the next version rolled out, it got fixed. I'm like, hey, we did that. Look at that.
So that's a fantastic example of someone implementing Ethernet, but not implementing a standard in the exact same way that another
why would you want to
manufacturer
use zeros?
Right? So it's the same thing. When you try to introduce a standard, well, everyone's going to interpret that standard in a different way, and they're going to make that standard possible in a different way. So you're going to have differing results, and that's
why you're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So the other part of it too is a lot of people do share ideas and the plugins they create on communities. So for everyone that's not
that's a good point. So on the community side, and you have a listserv, you got the Discord, you got communities. There's lots of ways to get in touch, and I encourage my team to stay involved there, just to see what floats by. But because every now and then there's been something that a few weeks later we're like, hey, someone was talking about it, let's find that message. Has there been any thought to like creating like a semi-official but maybe vetted or something like community, like, hey, upload your own version of a plugin here, and then other people can test it or whatever with a little asterisk that said you can download this and use it, but don't call us about it.
The company I used to program for had that same type of thing, and 90% of the time the drivers were not good, but that 10%,
that's what it's there for.
So part of what communities exist, if you've gone to the community site, you'll actually notice that you can go to a plugin repo, because that is a front for Bitbucket, right? So if you wanted to take someone's code and make modifications to it, that's kind of the idea of open source software, right?
Yeah.
And Lua plugins that we
without
offer.
attribution, of course.
Right. So if you want to if you find a way to make someone's code better, you could fork it at that point and submit that without affecting the original code. So that's something that is part of the community side. The ability to version plugins, but have it still be open for the community.
That's the definition of open source.
It sure is.
Wow.
It sure is.
With the big asterisk of like, don't call Jonathan.
Don't call
Jonathan. Because he didn't write the code.
Did not write the code.
No.
All right. So since Mike had to leave here because that dude is booked solid, I'm guessing. Or he just hates our conversation. So thanks to Mike for being a good sport about that. Related to the software side of things, and it's your favorite question because I ask you every year. What are the thoughts on possibilities, potentials, anything down the road? You can be as non-committal as you want, but like, hey, there's a lot of software codecs out there. You've got a powerful box doing stuff. Could we like start picking up some of those additional codecs and protocols and things, and even in some limited sense?
Right. So what you're trying to do is go all the way back to a DMPS, right? You're trying to put everything in one box.
DMPS. Holy crap!
What kind of? Why would I ever do that? No. So what I mean by that is, you're trying to put.
Is there like an expansion box for expansion chassis for like an NV21 that makes it the size of a DMPS?
3 RUs high.
So you would love some sort of modularized way to build out an AV system.
No, that sounds terrible. But I'm thinking more from a software side. Now, and from your perspective, I'm sure you'd say, yes, here's the new software thing, and there's a license for it. But
it's also known as entitlements.
Your boss is like 8 feet away. I can go talk to him. So.
Also entitlements.
As far as running another manufacturer's software essentially on our box, that would require some sort of containerized environment, right?
Well, not necessarily that. I'm thinking more about the video transport protocols and things like that. I mean, that's
where you. Like just a standard JPEG 2000? Is that what you're talking about? Or
JPEG 2000, AIM, SMPTE 2110, NDI. There's all these different options out there that shouldn't necessarily require additional changes to already powerful hardware.
Yeah.
It's more of a software layer. Is that something that you guys have even looked into? And are there technical reasons why this is just not going to work for the following things, because this creates a real shit show for support environments and all that stuff.
So answer your question with a little bit of a question. So what happens when you so we support 48K, right? So as DSP wise, we support 48K. When you want to move to 96K, I hate that conversation, but hey, 96K
in a DSP. I move all mine down to 44.1.
44.1, perfect.
Well, true CD quality.
Save a couple bits, right? Yeah. So the conversation around 96K is, hey, we can do 96K. However, you got to make some compromises, because what does that do? That it doubles the amount of bandwidth that's required.
Well, it's like Dante channels too, right?
Right, to process, right. You
yeah.
lose Dante channels when you go to 96K, depending on the hardware. So same deal. So when we start to look at bringing in new standards, new different streaming protocols, we know that QLAN works the way it is now. We know that we can implement software Dante the way it is now. When we start to introduce more variables to that, what do? We introduce the ability for that third protocol to crash the system, right? It's something. It introduces more variability where we've tight knit this software together. It introduces a little bit more variability. It is something that we can support, right? We've looked at what it's going to take to do SMPTE, right? It's 2110. We've looked at what that's going to take, and hey, there may be something down the road on that. We'll see. NDI. Now that is a hard intercommunication, right? Where that is a competing standard for our software-defined video.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? And so, because that's what NV is. It is software-defined video, software-defined hardware that captures that HDMI signal and then transmits it over the network.
Well, I'll say that your stuff is way better than NDI, because I hate NDI.
Oh, right.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
Could you do an NDI emulation mode where it requires to be rebooted once a day?
Yes.
So you can get the feel of using NDI.
Sure.
You know, if you could make the screen go black at random times.
No, in the most important time, right?
No,
It's
like,
a feature.
Like for a long period of time at the most important
For a
time.
long period.
And then I want phone calls on like Sunday morning from churches saying all our video's black, and I have to tell them just to reboot it because there's nothing I could do because it's NDI. Can you give me that as an experience?
What about like something where you tell a camera how high off the ground it is, and that tells it how often it needs to be rebooted?
Yes.
Because NDI cameras, the more inaccessible they are, the more often you have to get up there. So.
And I would love if I could only update your cameras via a ladder and a USB cable.
USB on a service
please
port.
do not let me update anything remotely. Because shit.
Yeah, could you guys implement a service port that either says future or is like the only way to do firmware?
I love NDI.
I would love to make Q-SYS harder to implement. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'd love to make Q-SYS harder.
That's not the name of the episode.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, right. Tell us.
We're looking forward to IPMX just to see what's going to happen, and that's why we're asking all manufacturers what their stance is on that, with SMPTE and everything coming out. So
I'd love to answer that directly, but that's one of those things where we know that exists.
Yeah,
and we
sure.
know that we have to have a plan to address that. So we have a plan now. Is it a public plan? Not at this moment, but it is something that we're aware of. It is something that we are looking into. And if we can make a business case out of supporting that, absolutely, that is something that we consider.
Well,
same with SMPTE 2110.
Fingers crossed for Europe to demand it. So. All right. Anything else from you guys on? I mean, I could throw them softballs all day long. So.
Softballs?
Yeah, these have all
Not
been
hardballs?
Yeah.
Like underhanded hardball? Like something in the middle?
I'm not sure that last question was a softball question.
These have all been softballs.
He was squirming.
Oh, called him squirmy.
I just want to point out that underhanded softball would be a good name, or underhanded hardball would be a good name for a strip club.
Oh, here's a question for you all. What are you looking for when you come to this show, and what are you trying to get out of it?
I'll tell you what I'm looking for is anything new. Can somebody just show me something new besides all the same shit I saw last year and the year before that? So what we're seeing, though, is we're not seeing, like you all said, a lot of products that are new. It's more of software enhancements. This thing you saw last year, come here, check this out. It also does this now, right? So I think we might have hit that plateau in the AV world where
it's been done,
where everything's been done that we know as far as, elements and physics out there, and maybe something can be discovered that's going to be a game changer. But
it's funny you say that, Justin, because I think I said that probably about a year. I mean, I like what obviously we're doing here at Q-SYS, but I said that about a couple of years ago to some degree, right? When everyone was battling out for ceiling microphones, right?
Yeah.
Arrays, right? That was like when the first one came out, it was a big thing, and I felt like that was like the last kind
Those
of
are illegal because they're shaped like a square.
And those are getting improved.
No, I'm not discussing that.
There's a company
so
here
we're
who's a law firm that used to make AV products that will sue you for even thinking about that.
But you're right. So we're limited. We're limited on bandwidth. We're limited on infrastructure. We're putting Cat 6A. Sure, there's fiber, but nobody's going to replace all of their copper with fiber just to adopt something new. 8K doesn't matter to us a whole lot
At all.
So
Oh,
what's
that's a good question. All right, go ahead. I got another question.
okay?
for you.
Well, another question. So like, there's that plateau that we're at. Yeah, you get 16K. That's great. That's better than the eye can see. So what does it matter?
So my take, what I believe, and this is nothing from the Q-SYS side, but maybe a little, is like I really do believe what you're going to be able to do in the next couple of years from a software side. And I believe software.
More
I know it
automation.
scares a lot of people talking about the cloud, right? But what you're going to be able to do the next 2-3 years, software, cloud-based solution, it's coming.
I
I tell all my customers it's coming. But I think it's going to be a good thing, right? Change. It's because it is going to be a big change. That's what I think is the next side. That's
the interesting part, and I guess where all this Microsoft Teams shit's coming from, is the battle of the cloud versus zero trust and security. And
Not
everybody,
necessarily, because Teams fixes the zero trust stuff.
well, that it breaks a whole hell of a lot.
If your network isn't set up correctly, yes, but that is a way of getting around the zero trust nightmare that I'm in.
But
I remember you were talking about that at the conference in Oregon. Yeah.
But it creates so many other problems that I would quit and then have somebody else deal with that. Cause
No, I would say on the positive end of that, right? So to David's point, going with the cloud solution is that we can use the power of the cloud, power of that of all of that processing that's not local to our campus,
right,
and actually act upon data that we're collecting in real time from classrooms, right? How much better would it be if you could act upon real, tangible data coming from your classrooms in real time?
Can we use that advanced processing to process SMPTE 2110 on your boxes?
Shots fired. Shots fired.
You're adding a little bit of latency there round trip, but whatever.
But I think you bring up a great point. That was, I agree with you on that on a lot of fronts from a hardware standpoint.
You mean hardware? I've seen a lot of hardware I bought last year that's getting smaller, more efficient.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of 1 RU turning to half RU. So seeing more efficiency, but nothing game-changing, game-breaking.
The last thing I said, here's a little product pitch for you along the way. Is like,
I like it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, here we go. No, but you know, when we enabled NV32 to be an encoder, a DSP, a control processor, right? AV bridge, all in a half RU, and I started telling people, I'm like, if you're looking at from a box standpoint, you could be looking at 6 different boxes, and I've been to campuses where they have 6 different boxes and overheating racks. 6 different boxes.
You've been to my campus, so yes.
And that's actually a mix of hardware. Well, I have been to your campus, but yes, mix of hardware and then like what you're able to do from a software base of what we're doing. So I think I'm excited about where we're going to go. I can't say too much, but from a software side of the business. So, but so that's all.
Yeah,
pitch
being
in
software defined, like you're saying, there's nothing new hardware-wise, right? What can we do in
there's
the hardware
only
realm?
so much after there's so much efficiency reached.
Right. What do you need? You need a faster processor. You need a faster processor. You need a processor that has more cores to do more shit.
Right.
Right. That's what you need because now we're living in the age of software.
Right.
Can I link 2 cores together and give them more power?
I mean, let's talk. Let's talk about it. But we're in the realm of software, and already being a software-defined platform, including the way that we implement video, gives us a real edge to move forward in those feature sets that you're looking for. The new stuff that you're looking for, especially when it comes to having a single box to do a lot of things. Right.
That single box is scary a little bit.
A little bit.
Because we don't want to go back to the all-in-wonder. But if everything's just a network port, then it's not so bad either.
Right, it's a network port, but take it this way,
There's 2 network ports.
Well, yeah, we probably need 3 or 4 on our campus.
So your IT teams, you have refreshes for IT equipment, right? And that is a device that sits on your network, right?
Yeah.
And it's sitting there processing all day long, and you trust that to work for its expected lifetime.
I wouldn't go that far, but
Most of the time I expect it to work.
Most of the time we expect it to work. But
it's not that bad out by you.
What it also means, though, is that that hardware is standardized, right? That hardware that we need to process those network packets can be standardized. So it's not relying on some specialized chip that no one, that is unobtainium, right? We can implement those features in software using chips readily available right now for a long time.
Well, you guys did that when you did you rolled the Core Plus streaming mode out, sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Right. There you go. That thing
David's
you already
point.
have, it already does that.
It is something that all we had to do is essentially flip a switch. And as we move forward, we're finding ways to make that better, faster, more reliable, and really, as we optimize, it gives us the ability to pack in more and more stuff to, again, that same box.
All right. So here's another easy question, but it is kind of an easy question. It's not specific to products or things coming down the road. So, just to mention 8K, no one cares.
No one cares.
I would say the same thing also 4K for the most part, with
I mentioned
rare exception.
16K, but I'd also, yes.
You said 8K's out here. So.
Yeah.
You said 16K is coming, 8K no one cares.
I thought 16K was here. Is it not? I don't even pay attention to that
no one
shit.
cares.
I don't even know.
So.
We're talking about diamonds?
Diamond?
Might as well be.
So probably 16K at 420.
I'm sorry, gold.
For nothing.
420, yeah.
For nothing.
400.
You get you get a third of the color.
It's just black and white. That's all you get. We're back to luminance and chromance.
Look at all the pixels.
But I'm just more curious what you guys are seeing out there as far as, do you have a lot of people deploying 4K? Or is it one of those things where the hardware can do it, but people just aren't because it's not huge?
Speaking from the higher ed side, which is what we're kind of focused on, is basically never.
Okay, good.
Right, as we know, the displays come in 4K, but no one's ever...
They look great, pixel double to 1080.
Yeah, and no one's ever implementing that. I'm not saying that there's probably not instances where that doesn't come up, but overwhelmingly, like if you're talking about your classroom...
I would say along that same line, I actually had a coworker that did an Avixa networking shop just this weekend. And if you actually start to look at the specifications for TVs that do claim 4K, those specifications are not very good, right? So they're not supporting...
You just said there were standards, Jonathan. That
standards
using
are meant to be broken, Chris.
Yes.
And I have to take a little bit of offense with what you said about 1080p doubling.
Love
looks
it, Larry.
fine.
Let's go.
I have noticed in this last year that a lot of the display manufacturers I used to trust, their stuff looks like crap when you send 1080 to
they're
it
doing
now.
like shit scaling?
Their scaling has went downhill.
So then what's the point in distributing 4K all over this network?
Push 4K looks fine, but it's like...
When you get it
4K.
to the display, and the display isn't even displaying all the colors that you're sending, right? So what's the point? Because you're cutting out all that data. So, right, I agree with David. 4K is not...
For your PowerPoints.
Set it to 4K then on your displays, Larry.
My PowerPoint's at 4.3.
And then set the zoom at 300% on everything. And you should be fine.
I'm going to have to at this point unless I can find a manufacturer that makes 1080p look good again.
Do all your Windows settings at 300%.
Do you want to start that hashtag?
Fixes it.
I might have to.
Do you want to make 1080p great again?
Well, because I want to find a manufacturer here that's doing it well, but the problem is all their content here is 4K, so I can't actually test it.
Larry, just build video walls and everywhere.
Oh, God.
yeah.
Get the hashtag right in there.
All right, so one other question for you guys. Again, this would be a software feature, I suppose, but there are differences in what processing happens between 1080p and 4K based on the sheer numbers and the math that goes on there. Has there been any thoughts to higher frame rate 1080? Because this is a request I have gotten. Esports, I have gotten this
100%.
3 or 4 times in the last year.
We're seeing more and more need for higher.
Right.
But however, when it comes down to it, 4K and all that, it's great. But we have to have a business case to support that. And right now,
I just gave it to you.
Yeah, exactly. So
I've had 3 requests in the last year. There's your business case.
The business case aside, so we're capitalizing on what we have now. Our offering at 60 frames a second works pretty well. right? To go to 120, 144 frames a second, maybe 240 is a stretch. Gamers don't even see 240 on the best PCs. Maybe at 640, right?
I got shot because that wasn't at 240, right?
The sticker on my laptop says 240.
Exactly. So
that's all true.
So that requires quite a bit more bandwidth. Even implementing 4K HDR, right, 10-bit color. When you start to implement that also increases by a huge amount. Increases the amount.
8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit color just crushes that.
Your HDMI pathways have to support, as well as the packetization of that video.
I would prefer HDR 1080 over 4K.
I totally agree with that.
Oh, you're with it?
Yeah. I'm on board for that, as well as bitstream. Do you guys? That's a quick question. Do you guys see any bits need to decode bitstream audio?
Explain.
Blu-ray. So if you're using a consumer model, it's going to output PCM.
PCM.
But if you're
talking about the encoding part,
if you're looking at DCI, you're looking at content that is bitstream,
right?
And a lot lot of times HDR is going to be on the low side of that.
For that.
Yeah, so there's the DCI-OH that you can use for Q-SYS, right? But if your video distribution is supported directly, is that something you guys would even use at this point?
I don't put Blu-ray players in rooms.
Right, so that's a huge question. But however, do you have cinema courses on your campus?
One or two, maybe.
We just got electricity, so
and running water.
Next year.
Okay.
We're looking forward to that one. We don't have a film school.
So it comes down to you don't have a film school at your campus.
Correct.
But film schools are very prevalent, and we're starting to see more and more need to support that.
No, that's a good point. I mean, an advanced feature like that, and I'm sure that would come with caveats or certain specific settings and things, which, to your point about DCI, it's like, if you want to claim something as being DCI, I got the phrasing here, it's not certified, it's DCI capable or something, there's a phrase there. The entire pathway, end to end, has to be certified.
And that's a requirement,
right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I would imagine in your scenario, you'd be doing something similar. Like, hey, if we're going to do bitstream audio, you have to have the following things here. Please don't call us because you did this through your little wackadoo switcher or whatever, use the existing cable that's already draped across the ceiling tiles, and it didn't work. So
Okay. So special use case there, but again, back to the question of frame rate. Would love to double that 60 frames a second, right? But we got to introduce more expensive hardware to support that, and so that comes down to: would you pay for that more expensive hardware?
It depends.
What is it worth to you?
For the use case,
Is it would it be replacing an existing? So now all of them are that, and thus all of those, that model thing is now more expensive, or is it there's two? Here's this one, and then the advanced model.
We're talking $5 or $5 million. Like what's the expensive and cost are all
from the manufacturing side, implementing a specialized a chipset design for stuff like that. So let's take FPGA for example.
Right.
FPGA's software-defined hardware. That's literally the definition of that. You got to pay for that. You got to pay for that little chipset to move those pixels around, to process those pixels. That costs a lot of money. And when you produce 1 million of those units, pennies, even dollars especially, start to really add up. Mm-hmm. And so we have to, as a business, of course, got to make money, but we do want to produce a product that works, but that is within the budget of most people.
Right.
And that's where, hey, we've got 60 frames a second. If that's not the solution if that doesn't meet your solution at this time, then maybe we're not the right solution for now. And then maybe in the future.
Well, that's how I implemented it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
But
maybe in the future.
To your overall question, if you had, here's the regular standard model does 90% of what you want, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. In those 10% edge cases, here's this one, which is going to cost you more or whatever because it's a more specialized piece. You could probably make that argument that, like, well, that's a more specialized scenario. That's not going into my 30-person conference or classrooms. So, but
it just depends on production, I guess, at that point.
Yep. And of course, R&D, right? So R&D that goes. Every single manufacturer out there wants to recoup R&D costs.
Oh yeah, they have to.
And R&D is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of smart engineers a lot of time to produce those kinds of
and
products.
it's just an unknown because they got to work on it until they figure the shit out.
Right, and then when they figure it out, they have to release 17 different
how much did that
firmware
cost?
updates.
It's like, oh man, we got to charge what
to
for
make
this
it work
product?
again.
Yeah.
Speaking of software, real quick software request. Any option you guys might be able to go in and specify versions of HDCP that are being enabled?
Hey, that's actually a fantastic question. I have had that question posed many times over. Right now, it was a design choice. What I do know is it is a design choice to do auto and off, right? So on or off. If you leave it in auto, it will negotiate on its own. Mm-hmm. So that is the case right now. So it's not out of the question. We can't. It's more of a, what implications come along with allowing you to select 1.4 versus 2.3.
I'm just saying, if your customers are dumb enough they don't know what that means, maybe you don't want them as customers. So.
Yes.
That's fair enough.
I will call them all personally and tell them why.
My argument back to you is, unless you're trying to send content to something that's not authorized, let's not even talk about lecture capture, right? And Macintosh is right.
No, I'll tell you where it comes from, and it's not that. It's I'm running into. And back to your comment about standards and Larry's comment about displays not doing a great job on some things, it's some of them not handshaking at the appropriate level of encryption, appropriate frame rate, appropriate resolution. And it's because of the HDCP. There's like a weird handshake mismatch, and you can watch them go back and forth all day long at random, like 15-minute intervals.
I noticed a ton of that this year.
Right, and if I drop in an EDID binder or something like that, it'll fix it. But I shouldn't have to do that with a box as powerful as one of yours and a display that should meet standards with brand new cabling run through there. And now I'm going through Widget Town to tell these two devices to knock it off. So
the first thing I'm going to ask you, Chris, where's the case number?
Yeah, I'm not calling you guys about that.
Yeah.
I told you I fixed it.
I need a case number.
So, actually, we've got them open. So
So anyone listening at home, the best way to get Q-SYS engineering involved is to get a case started, right? That's the best way to really get something going. Hey, you could send me that information, and I'll forward it on to make a case. Right? That's the best way to do that, because the data that comes from cases gives us that use case as to why I need the selection of an HDCP version versus auto and off, which is what we have now.
Because
I need
not
that
a
data.
goon. I know what it means.
If I have the data that says if this customer had the ability to select that, it's going to fix all the world's problems, right? We need that data to act upon it. So that's just the reality of how.
Well, I know how to
operate.
recreate it, and I can do it all day long. So I will go recreate it in different rooms, and then I'll create a case for each one of them.
It just needs one case.
I am encouraging you to create a case.
All right. Well,
there's that.
We'll do that, and then Jonathan just guaranteed he will fix it.
Yes.
I
Of
heard
course,
him say it.
yes. I will personally.
I heard
come
you
down.
say
I heard he was going to send an email.
And I thought that was nuts.
He's going to email you, and then you're going to forward it on, is what I heard.
I'm going to forward it on.
Well, that's the same thing I do when people email me about classroom problems. I'm just like, forward to the help desk.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
all right. Anything else from you guys that you want to bring up? So no. All right. Well,
we appreciate
Jonathan
for
is
being
the
here.
last man standing. So clearly, of the three we started with, he is he's the most powerful of the three. He won.
I won.
He won the challenge. So
I won.
no, this has been great. I appreciate you guys giving us the time to talk about things that are maybe a little more in depth than you normally get into, and not the softball questions that I saw another organization who was right behind us pitching to your boss, which we know were going to be real hard hitting questions there. So because we know what the AV media is all about. So just going to get him to come over here. It's like let's have a real talk. So
well, thank you guys for hosting and letting us do this.
All right. Well, we'll have this out in the next couple of days. I think sometime probably this next week for this one. I think.
No, this is live.
You're right.
It'll
Crap.
be tonight.
This one's tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Assuming they get it edited in time. So,
Maybe tomorrow.
Have fun, guys.
All right, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that wraps up another episode of AV SuperFriends Perspectives. If you have a perspective to share, you can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.